Hello everyone and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel. We continue with Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer. So we're in chapter 46. This is 46c. Some interesting topics have come in, and we're going to start with the Tehillim as usual. Hallelu et Adonai kol goyim, shabechu kol haomim, ki gavar alenu chasdo ve'emet Adonai le'olam. Hallelujah. This Torah and everything learned from it, of course, goes to the safety and security of our soldiers and the safe return of our hostages. So this one is called Silencing of the Angels. And we're actually in the month of Tammuz right now, the month where it's notoriously bad things happen to Israel. If there's a time not to go to war, if there's a time not to open up a military front, it would definitely be in this month. So look for it to happen. Kahana says, the tablets were not created in earth, but in heaven, the handiwork of the Holy One, blessed be He, as said in Exodus 32:16. Now the tablets were God's work, and the inscription was God's inscription engraved on the tablets. These are the tablets of Kedim. What is Kedim? Days of old. Also, biblically speaking, when someone says, when it's written Kedim, Kedim is also of the east. So you have Yama, Vakedma, Tzafona, Vanegba. Yama, what is Yama? Yama comes from Yam, as in the ocean. Where is the ocean? It's to the left. It's to the west. Yama, Vakedma. So it says Kedim mi Eden, to the east of Eden. Tzafona, north. Vanegba. Negev, the Negev, is to the south. It's all about the borders of the land of Israel. So these are the tablets from Kedim. But Kedim also means Kadum, as in before. Kodem. Kodem is lifnei. Lifnei. Kodem means like before. What does before mean? Before what? Well, let's see. Meaning this is not a substance that can be found on earth of what the tablets were made of. Meaning in the physical reality. When the Torah references Shemaim, the sky, it does not mean the physical skies, but the spirit realm. So obviously the tablets weren't made of clouds, but from the substance that should not be able to become tangible in this world. And yet we have a description that they were likened to gleaming and glistening sapphire stone. Okay? We understand, again, a few times we've seen things that when they come into our reality, into our physical reality, they become tangible. Like what? Like the manna, right? What is the manna? The manna is, this is the food of the angels, it says. And what is it actually in its original form or lack thereof? It is light that emanates from beneath the throne of God, all right? So this light comes and it sustains all of creation. When it entered, it says when it passes the firmament and comes into our reality, it gains specific physical properties. It said like thin coriander seeds that rested on top of the ground, right? They gave it a description over there in the 5 books of Moses. Same thing I learned when Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet, whenever he comes and goes, when he goes up and he goes through the firmament, that's when his whole body and being turns into fire and air, just like the rest of the angels. But when he enters into our physical reality, when he crosses that firmament, that's when he gets a physical being. Okay? All right. So like we said, the tablets weren't made of that stuff, but again, it was likened to sapphire stone. Psalms 102:26 says, "In the beginning you founded the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. Lefanim haaretz yasadeta u'maaseh yadecha shamayim." So it says, "Maaseh yadecha," the works of your hands, heaven, the heavens. So again, the English is misleading here because the meaning is lost. So it should be translated. It said, "The words of your hands, shamayim." We just read in Exodus that the work of God's hands were the tablets, and now we see that the fact that they are the tablets actually are the heavens. Maaseh yadecha shamayim. The work of your hands are the heavens. So when we are speaking of kedim, which comes from the word, like we said, kodim, kadum, which literally means before. What does this mean to us? Before what? before the world was. And so our sages say that these tablets have been created or fashioned in the eve of the sixth day. Remember, this doesn't mean that the contents have not been written, because as we know, the world and all of reality was made through the Torah, and all reality and its secrets lie within it. We're just speaking of the actual physical manifestation, or manifested rather, sapphire-looking stones themselves, okay? As our text continues, it says, these are the tablets from Kedim, from the days of old, or from before. And the writing is the writing of Elohim. And just one more point that our sages point out over here that they make, which is something that we must always remember. And that is obviously God knows the end from the beginning, right? It's not, God doesn't he doesn't watch, let's see what's going on. It's already done, right? The element of time is what concerns us. God is not bound by any of his creation. So he knows all of these things, obviously, which is why even the second tablets were already created before the world was. And we're going to see this in just a bit. This is very interesting. Like we've read in the verse, that is the writing of old that was engraved upon the tablets. Now in the Hebrew, the word engraved is charut. But our text continues and says, do not call it charut, engraved, but call it cherut, freedom. It's exactly the same spelling, just different punctuation. Charut, cherut. Engraved, freedom. As our sages say, and I'm quoting Avot Rabbi Natan, chapter 2, for anyone who labors in Torah makes himself a free man. But a free man from what? From who? Free what? What freedom? From that which can potentially vex us from the moment we become self-aware until the day we die. This enemy is not external, but internal. It is our very own inclination. And without Torah, not only is Israel not free from the most powerful of enemies externally, the evil inclination also, but Israel becomes a slave to the system of the world. The Torah is a document of freedom. When we toil in Torah, our evil inclination no longer has a hold on us. Not that we are ever free from it in our lifetimes per se. None of us is a Moses or a David. Towards the end of David's life, the prophetess Abigail, she told him, she says, listen, man, you're not coming back in a Gilgul, in an incarnation. You've already done your tikkun. And David indeed has not come back in a reincarnation until he will come again in Mashiach ben David. We're talking about the same fraction of his soul. But he already did his tikkun. He is done. He's complete. So at least now we have a fighting chance, okay? This because, again, not David, not Moses, but we always have to constantly have the, how shall we say? It's like that resistance over there. The Torah is what helps us to resist. And so we can become free from the dominance of this inclination. And so we can become free from the dominance of this inclination, which has been designed to pull us down, while the Torah enables us to break free of the shackles, but only if we immerse ourselves within it. It's not just enough to read. No, that's not going to help anything. We have 613 commands by which we have to live. The Noahides have the 7 commands by which they have to live. And again, the Noahide commands, those are all about the negative commands for Israel. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. All your physical bodily inclinations tell you what you want to do, and the Torah is saying, here's why you should not do it. Now, it's not just enough to, the Torah says it, I'm free. That's not how this works, obviously. It goes so much deeper than that. As King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes 10:17, fortunate are you, O land, whose king is the son of nobles. Again, horrible translation. And your princes eat at the proper time, in might and not in drinking. Ashrecha eretz shemalkech ben chorim, v'saraich be'et yochlu bigvura velo bashti. So where it says, fortunate are you, O land, whose king is the son of nobles. No. Ashraich eretz shemalkech ben chorim. Fortunate or blessed are you, O land, whose king is a son of freedom, ben chorim, free. The land, the physical earth, is referring to the body made of earth, Adam, Adama. And a king is one who rules over his body, like a king rules over his kingdom. Man rules over his body like a king over his kingdom. Because it's the body that is the lowest form of being that wishes to revert to its most basic of instincts. Like we said, I want this, I want to do it. Why should you not do it? The more you learn Torah, has nothing to do with your own understanding. It works on higher and yet also on deeper levels. And the opposite of this statement can be found in Proverbs 30:22, and we'll read 21 for context. Under three things, the earth quakes. See, earth, we're getting to it. The earth quakes, and under four, it cannot endure. Under a slave who rules, and a wretch who is sated with food. Tachat eved ki imloch. What is the opposite of a free man? It is a slave, right? Under three things the earth quakes, and under four that cannot endure. Under a slave who rules. A slave who rules. You get it? And what happens when our body and all its physical desires rule over not only our better judgment, but also disparages us from toiling in Torah? There will be quaking. Now, this next part is a brand new take on the tablets, and it all makes sense. You've never heard this before. When the Holy One, blessed be He, said to Moses, as said in Exodus 34:1, and the Lord said to Moses, hew for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones. Get this. A quarry of sapphire was created for him in the tent, which he then fashioned. You see that? As said in Exodus 34:4. So he, Moses, hewed 2 stone tablets like the first ones, not only in size, but actually apparently from the same substance. Now you might be thinking, but clearly it says stone tablets here, while we already discussed that the first ones were made of a sapphire-looking substance. To which I will say, in the English it does. So here we go. The word even does not mean just rock or stone, but it never specified which one. So again, in Hebrew it says, Vaifsol shnei luchot avanim, avanim, yes, rocks, stones, but what kind? There is a term, precious stones. Is there not? Precious stones. In Hebrew it's called avanim yekarot, even yekara. And so when we want to say sapphire, we usually add the word stone in the beginning to describe just what kind of stone it is. For example, take a look at Ezekiel 28:13. Be'eden gan Elohim haita kol even yekara. In Eden, the garden of God, you were every precious stone. Okay, so you got precious stone, even, stone, yekara, valuable, precious. All right, was set in your covering, ruby, topaz, diamond, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire. Here we go. Sapir. So we see even yekara. Even sapir. Sapphire stone is even sapir. So when it says, hew for yourself 2 tablets like the first one, 2 stone tablets, what kind of even? What kind of rock is that, right? Does not mean that the same size or shape necessarily, but the same looking material as well. We've also learned that everything spiritual has a physical equivalent. There is a realm called Livnat Hasapir, sapphire brick stone. There's a realm, okay? That's the lowest of the firmaments, which translates to sapphire, the kind that we're familiar with. In Kahelet Rabbah, part 9, it says, this is fascinating, coinciding with what we discussed before, how even the second tablets were created before the establishment of the world. It says that God simply revealed them, or the sapphire stone itself was revealed for Moses to hew, with inside the tent of meeting in the very spot that Moses moved it outside the camp. They were just there waiting. Remember, nothing new was created. Everything was already created within the 6 days of creation, which means it was already waiting for him right there. God knows everything, right? It's all one thing. So like all things, everything is already here. We just are not able to see it unless God himself opens our eyes, or in other words, reveals it to us. So Moses ascended with the tablets to the mountain and spent 40 days, sitting before the Holy and Blessed be He like a student sits before his rabbi, reading the Torah during the day and extrapolating upon it at night. What is the Mishnah? I mean, this is the oral Torah. This concept we discussed last class. The ministering angels said to him, Moses, the Torah was given for our sakes. Now, this already happened during the first 40 days of receiving the first tablets. Why then are we reading this again for the second tablets? Why are the angels coming at Moses again? We know how it was, right? So think about it logically for a moment. The first tablets were given before Israel sinned with the golden calf, right? And Moses had these conversations and bested the angels, essentially winning the right to receive the Torah. Fair and square. But now, after all the big fuss about how man, specifically Israel, are absolutely worthy of safeguarding the secrets of the universe, the keys to eternity, and the true path to the infinite, things kind of changed a bit, didn't they? There was this whole big hoopla. Oh yeah, definitely give it to them. What happened? Golden calf. Now he's coming back again. So guess what? The angels are coming saying, hey. So the first go around we saw in Psalms 8. What is man that you should remember him or be mindful of him? And the son of man that you should be whatever. Ma enosh ki tizkerenu uben adam ki tifkedenu. Forget the English here. All right. Yet you have made him slightly less than Elohim, and you have crowned him with glory and majesty. You gave him dominion over all works of your hands. Maaseh yadecha, or the works of God's hands. Here we go, the Torah. You have placed everything beneath his feet. Not the best look to be back at the same place again to receive the same things after everything that had happened the first time around, right? Talk about a humbling experience. Fortunately for us, it was the most humble man to have ever lived, right? However, Moses was not there on his own. As we know, God commanded him to fashion new tablets that just like had already been prepared for him in that place that he would then pitch the tent outside the camp. Before the world was, everything was there. So Moses surely would return to them in confidence because essentially that actually changed as far as the angel's ability to fulfill the Torah. The Torah isn't just supposed to sit there looking pretty, right? In the heavens. It's the word of God and it cannot return void. And if the angels can't do it, then who can? And so, what was different this time around can be read in Psalms 82. As the angels told Moses, I'm going to read 6 and 7. I said, you are Elohim. What is Elohim? Elohim, it doesn't, again, Ani amarti Elohim atem uvnei elyon kulchem. I said, you are Elohim, and all of you are the sons of the Most High. Indeed, as man you will die, and as one of the princes you will fall, or one of the ministers you will fall. During the first 40 days, death was suspended, just like in the Garden of Eden. But this time around, that was not the case. Okay, you understand? The ministering angels then said to him, Moses, the Torah was given for our sakes. And Moses returned to them and said, it is written in the Torah, honor thy father and thy mother. Do you have a father and mother? Creator, yes, right? It's interesting that our text only gives us one command because he doesn't go through all the commands, just one of the 10 commandments over here, as opposed to the last time when Moses threw all the 10 commandments. Question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, none of which the angels could fulfill. Give him the Torah, no problem. But now, why was this one mentioned? Only one of the 10 commandments, and specifically this one? As we know, there are commands that pertain to the relationships between man and his creator, and between man and his fellow man. The commandments break into two, right? The first commands are about God, which are also positive commands. Do this, do this, do that. The other 5 are between man and his fellow man. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. Okay, all of thou shalt nots. But the fifth command, the one that sits between these two categories, honor thy father and thy mother, this is very unique. And that is because there are three partners in the creation of a child. The father, male, for the bones, white, on the side of mercy, and the mother, female, for the flesh and blood, red, on the side of judgment. You see that? Male is mercy, female is judgment. That's why you get your bone structure from your father, and you get the blood and the flesh and blood from the side of your mother. Okay? And who are we forgetting here? And God, with the soul thrown into the mix, and that is your three-pronged rope that is not easily torn. And so, when we honor our parents, we honor God. When we dishonor our parents, we dishonor God. Making this the perfect balance of the commandments and the only one necessary to present. That kind of hit the point right there. The angels obviously got it. Moses continued with yet another brilliant retort in a very clear way, thereby leaving the angels with nowhere to go while maintaining their honor. Brilliant. He said, "It is written in the Torah, specifically in the book of Numbers 19:14, this is the law, if a man dies in a tent, anyone entering the tent and anything in the tent shall be unclean for 7 days." Moses asked the angels, "Is there death among you?" Our sages say that Moses was hinting to them what King Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes 3:19. For there is a happening for the children of men, and there is a happening for the beasts, and they have one happening. Like the death of this one is the death of that one, meaning we all die, right? And all have a spirit, we all have a ruach. And the superiority of man over beasts is naught, for all is vanity. You see what he's saying? Umutar ha'adam min ha'be'ema, ain ki hakol havel. What did Moses do over here? The angels would never compare themselves to man, right? What is man that you are mindful of him? Man's days are fleeting. We're born, we barely live, and then we die. We are but flesh and blood, lowly, limited, and extremely flawed, as we have seen time and again. Moses is showing this to the angels, showing, yes, of course, we are flawed, we are limited, we are born, we live, and we die. Would the angels allow themselves to be compared then to the beasts? Because in this verse of Solomon, he says, guess what? Man and beast, you have the same ruach. What's going on? So of course the angels would not allow themselves to be compared to man who is compared to the beasts. You're comparing angels to the beasts, the angels see like, of course we're not compared to the beasts. Don't be ridiculous. Genesis 1:24, and God said, let the earth bring forth living nephesh. This is for the 6th day. Living nephesh, according to their kind, cattle and creeping things, and the beasts of the earth according to their kind. And it was so. Man and beast were created on the 6th day, and we all have a nephesh chaya, both man and beast. But when we can be compared to beasts, why are we compared to beasts? Because we all have the same spirit, like we said, nefesh chaya, as we all come from the same source and will return there as well. Look at what it says in the very next verse in Ecclesiastes 3:20. All go to one place, all come from the dust, and all return from the dust. This is true. What is the difference, though? This, of course, is the Torah. When we live according to God's commandments, though our body returned to the dust of the earth, our spirit rises, while those who do not, where does their spirit go? The next verse, who knows that the spirit of the children of men is that which ascends on high, and the spirit of beasts is that which descends below the earth. Gotcha, angels. And so Moses concluded and made a true statement before God and all the heavenly entourage when he said, the Torah was given only for us. And the angels stood in silence. They did not answer. Because really the truth is the truth. And there is only one single truth. It is not objective, nor is your truth the truth. It is an undeniable fact, and ultimately it will be revealed to the world. And in the meantime, Moses just spoke it before God in the presence of all the heavens again. From here it is said, Moses ascended in his wisdom to the upper worlds and brought down the mighty confidence of the ministering angels, as said in Proverbs 21:22. A wise man ascended to a city of mighty ones and brought down the stronghold in which it trusts. So you have King Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived. Whenever the sages refer to Solomon, they go, ha-chacham, the wise one, right? Because, right, whenever they refer to Moses, it's ha'anav, the humble one, right? Okay, so you have Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived, the one who, like we said, is referred to our sages as the wise one, telling us about a wise man who did these things, and that man is Moses. This is also why the book that I've been reading small sections for you regarding Moses' ascent and challenges with the angels is called A Wellspring of Wisdom, Ma'ayanot HaChochma, Ma'ayan HaChochma. Ir Giborim is a city of mighty ones. And who are the mighty? Who are the Giborim? Psalms 103:20. Bless the Lord, his angels, those mighty in strength. Baruchu Adonai Malachav, Giborei Koach. The mighty ones are the angels. So again, a wise man, Moses, ascended to a city, the heavens, of mighty ones, angels, and brought down the stronghold in which it trusts, the Torah. And he got it fair and square. So much so that the literal judge of the universe was present and said, game, set, match. The angels saw that God gave Moses the Torah, and so they also stood and they gave him gifts, scrolls, and writings for healing for men, as said in Psalms 68:19. You, Moses, ascended on high. You took captives. You took gifts to be among men, and also rebellious ones for Yah, God, to dwell. You ascended on high. This is obviously Moses. You took captives. What captives? The Torah. The Hebrew doesn't exactly say that. It's more like you took captive, not captives, captive, as the angels did not want to give it up. You took gifts to be among men, the healing remedies for the people, which are not relevant for the angels since they don't get sick. And also rebellious ones for Yah, Yud, Hey, the upper letters of the four-letter name of God, right? You have Yud and you have Hey, and then you have the letter Vav and you have the letter Hey. For God to dwell, though Israel rebelled against God, he still chose to dwell among them, within them, because of the merit of Moses. We understand the verse, right? It's incredible. Now, by the way, the healing remedies, I hope you understand that the healing remedies are actually the secrets within the Torah. The tree of life, which gives life to all those who grasp a hold of it. A hold of it, as said in Proverbs 3:18. It is a tree of life for those who grasp it, and those who draw near are fortunate. Now, I was going to end the teaching here, but there's a verse that people like to throw around, people from foreign religions, they like to throw around as a form of a gotcha, without, of course, having any inkling of understanding of the Hebrew, not to mention anything that it carries, as well as its relevance and connection to the verses that came before it. Anytime the word son is mentioned in the Torah, they like to get excited, except, of course, when it says that Israel is God's firstborn son. Then, like the angels, different kind of angels, they remain silent. Okay, they don't know that one, but maybe now they will. And so, since it is relevant to the man Moses and his actual accomplishments, well, here we go. So we're just going to focus on this verse and not pick it apart entirely because it'll take more time than we have years. So let's try and keep it short and sweet. Proverbs 30, verse 4. Who ascended to heaven and descended? I mean, this answer we already literally just read in one verse. Okay. Who gathered wind in his fists? Who wrapped the waters in a garment? Who established all the ends of the earth? What is his name and what is his son's name? Who is that son? If you know, I guarantee that you don't. מי על השמיים וירד, מי אסף רוח בחופניו, מי צרר מים בסמלה, מי הקים כל אפסי ארץ, מה שמו ומה שם בנו. כי תדע, I am accentuating those certain words because they have meaning, one that will not be understood in other religions. Firstly, as a hint to what is being discussed and the gravity of the verse, you have the four fundamental components for creation in plain sight. Who ascended to heaven and descended, right? Fire is what actually ascends. Who gathered wind in his fists? Who wrapped water in his garments? Who established the ends of the earth, okay? Fire, wind, water, and earth. The point of the question afterwards, what is his name and what is the name of his son, if you know? This is a rhetorical question. Since you are asked, as Job was asked, if you had any idea about the origins of fire, wind, water, and or earth. Why does it burn? Why does it blow? Why does it flow? Where do all of them come from? What are their actual properties? What is their root? And so even if a man does know the nature of these elements, he should never ask as to how they were created. These are things that we need not know. Man must know his place and function within his own life, and in the grand scheme of things, focusing on what is in front of him. This is the only way that we are able to move. As King David, father of the wisest man to have ever lived, wrote in Psalms 131, a song of ascent by David, O Lord, my heart was not haughty, nor were my eyes raised on high, and I did not pursue matters greater and more wondrous than I. That was the secret of David's success. He focused on what was right in front of him. Forget about what comes down the road. God's got that. You focus on what is here because God placed this in front of me right now. Take this as a life lesson. Whatever you have going on, focus on that. Don't focus on where you want to be, because if you don't deal with what you got going on, you will never get to where you want to be. And after you do what you need to do, you are likely not going to even want to go where you thought that you wanted to go. This is God doing you a favor. Focus on what is in front of you. Take after David. Okay. So, and I did not pursue matters greater and more wondrous than I, especially if one is out of their depth, as the next two verses in Proverbs clearly state. Every word of God is refined. He is a shield for all who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, lest he prove to you, and you be found a liar. Not to mention that if you would read it in the Hebrew, also understanding slightly deeper meanings in the numerical values, you would know that me, like I said, me, which is who, has the numerical value of 50, which speaks to Binah. We're already talking about the Sfirot. This is way above your heads over here. Also known as the mother of every living thing. And Ma, what is Ma? Mashmo, what is his name and what is his son's name? Ma has the numerical value of 45, and that is in all actuality the number of Adam, which you like to call man. 45, Gematria. That is one interpretation. So again, I'm pointing these things out right now because if you've been coming here for years, you understand what is going on and the different elements and the different attributes of God in that manifest in this world. You would understand this verse, be like, whoa, that's amazing. It's right there in plain sight. But taking a verse out of context because it has the name son and a question mark, and I'm pretty sure that I know who you think is going there, it's simply not the truth at all. But we're not done yet. Here's another interpretation. Who ascended to heaven? This is the Holy One, blessed be He. Proverbs 47:6. God ascended with a trumpet blast, the Lord with the sound of the shofar, and descended. The Lord, this is the Holy One, blessed be He. Exodus 19:20. The Lord descended upon Mount Sinai to speak of the mountain. The Lord summoned Moses to the peak of the mountain, and Moses ascended. Okay. Who gathered wind, ruach, spirit in his fists? This is the Holy One, blessed be He. Job 12:10. In whose hand is the soul, ruach, of every living veruach kol basar ish. It messes it up in the Hebrew, in the English. Asher beyado nefesh kol chai, who has in his hand the nefesh of every living thing, veruach, and the spirit of every human flesh. Who wrapped the waters in a garment? This, of course, is the Holy One, blessed be He. Job 26:8. He binds water in his clouds, and the cloud does not split beneath it. Tzorer mayim ba'avav, in the Hebrew, in the verse, in 30 verse 4, it says, mitzarar mayim, right? So it's the same language right here. Tzorer mayim ba'avav, velo nifka'anan tachtam. Who established all the ends of the earth? Now, mind you, this is mistranslated everywhere because there's more than one meaning. Mi hekim kol afsei aretz. Who has raised, lehakim is to raise up. Mi hekim kol afsei aretz. Ephes is 0. Afsei aretz are the lowly ones in the ground. Right? You can also say who established the ends of the earth, but if you want to literally translate the Hebrew, that's what that means. And of course, this is the Holy One, blessed be He. 1 Samuel 2:6. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and raises up. Afsei aretz. There we go. What is His name? I mean, Tzur Shemo, His name is Tzur, rock, boulder, stone, pebble, whatever, however you want to translate it in the terrible English translation. Hashem Tzevaot Shemo, Lord of Hosts is His name, El Shaddai Shemo, and many other names that we could read. Also a lot in, God's encounter with Moses. Each serving a particular function, which can be found throughout the Tanakh. Again, in Hebrew. And what is the name of His son, if you know? Oh, I know. And I know because God said so, from Exodus 4:22. And you shall say to Pharaoh, so said the Lord, my firstborn son is Israel. That should clear up a few things, I think. Here's one more on the house. Who ascended to heaven? This is Moses. Exodus 19:3, Moses ascended to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain, saying, so you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel. And descended, this is Moses. Exodus 19:14, so Moses descended from the mountain to the people, and he prepared the people, and they were washed their garments. Who gathered wind in his fists? This is Moses. Exodus 9:29, and Moses said to him, when I leave the city, I will spread my hands to the Lord. The thunder will cease, and there will be no more hail, in order that you know that the land is the Lord's. Who wrapped waters in a garment? This is Moses. Exodus 15:8, and with the breath of your nostrils the waters were heaped up. The running waters stood erect like a wall. The depths congealed in the heart of the sea. Moses split the sea, yes? Who established all the ends of the earth? Mihikim kol afsei aretz, who raised up all the lowly from the earth? This was Moses who established the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which became the foundation of the earth. Exodus 40:18. Moses set up the Mishkan, placed its sockets, put up the planks, put up its bars, and set up its pillars, and so on and so forth. What is his name? His name is Moshe ben Amram. And what is the name of his son, if you know? Moses is our current rabbi, Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not Rabbi Moshe. It's not Harav Moshe. It is Moshe Rabbeinu. Rabbeinu means our current rabbi, our current teacher. And a rabbi's students are his children, which means anyone you teach Torah to is likened to your child. You understand what I'm saying? So, who did Moses teach Torah to? God gave Moses the Torah, and Moses taught all of Israel the Torah and continues to do so until this very day. That's why Moshe Rabbeinu. So, and that is the name of his son. If you know, here's another hint for you. If you know in Hebrew, ki teda. What is teda? Da'at, knowledge, right? And that is the exclusive sephira of Moses, who imparted the knowledge of God to who? You guessed it, from Exodus 4:22. So said the Lord, my firstborn son is Israel. The son, the firstborn son, is always Israel. Thus saith the Lord. And that's why it was Moses who ascended and descended for their sakes, and that is why the angels were silenced. And that's today's class. I do hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Be very careful in this month. In the meantime, have a Shabbat Shalom, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.